That's what I like to hear.
Cry on.
Why do you gotta look at me when you say that? A consultant.
A place to come get food. A place to stay. And that's how I see it, because, from really, we launched the show together, but the team here around me is really the team that's kept the show going, and that's how I see it.
He's being a little kind. As I've said before, Alex and Bob are, both at the beginning and throughout, much more involved than I ever would have thought they were going to be capable of. But,
one call a week is like, they're so involved.
But they actually care about this. They care about this. That's it.
No, thanks, everybody.
Anyone else?
I know we asked a bunch of questions to you guys about BotCon and stuff, so I didn't want to repeat that. So I'm trying to think of some new ones. What are we going to?
Ask you a question then. What should happen with the next Transformers movie? Should it be like a continuation of what?
All Cybertron, no humans.
What should we do in that movie?
All Cybertron.
Not that anyone's asking.
All on Cybertron, no humans in the movie at all. That's what.
Couple humans.
I don't think the movie. I don't think they do. I think they want humans. They feel like that's.
Unless we tell them no humans, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, good idea.
You mean they need physical actors?
Well, those movies work so well with Shia that they're thinking they want that and everything, but
I think they think it's their entry point.
Otherwise, how else do you? Who are the robots hiding from if they're not hiding from people?
True.
You're not hiding from dinosaurs. We covered this earlier.
Well, no, we'd like to see a lot of what he said, but I think the human element is important. It'd be neat to see the humans maybe have an excursion back to Cybertron and learn more about the Transformers and their origins and things like that.
Our desire is definitely to give you more of the backstory for the whole Transformers mythology, or at least our version of it. Again, part of that depends on how long we get to play in the sandbox. The longer we get to play, the more stuff we can dig into and get into. Quite honestly, we're obviously completely separate from the feature. There is no creative crossover other than we're both fans of each other's work, as far as I know. And yes, I'm speaking from Hartman because I have no idea if he's actually a fan of Prime. But otherwise, they really are two wholly different universes. We have no idea what the movie is doing. The only thing that happens every once in a while is we'll pitch out a character we want to use or storyline we're thinking about. And if the people in Rhode Island who do cross between both sense a potential conflict, they won't tell us why, but they'll bring up and say, it's probably better you don't use that character, or maybe you don't go in that direction. But we really never know.
Nonetheless, though, this team thinks very cinematically. And what I love about the series is that you can put 3 episodes together, 5 episodes together, and you can kind of see a little movie from the music in terms of Brian Tyler's score that's very cinematic to the way it's directed to the way it's written. I like that it feels like I would pay to see some of the stuff that we've done in the theater if it was 2 hours, and that's pretty cool. I like the idea that could be on every week and that we're going for a cinematic quality to it.
Especially because we're going to do a movie that we could go to Cybertron. Because we could build Cybertron pre the war. Maybe I've never seen Cybertron as the Vegas / World's Fair it's supposed to be.
Can you talk about the way the show is lit in the fact that it's unlike any other animation?
Well, usually in animation, because you're on television animation, you're in such a tight schedule, you don't get that time to work out the lighting, the production design in that sense. So we're treating this as a live action project. We're setting up our sets, we're setting up our cameras, we're setting up our lighting, and get the lighting very cinematically. A lot of times on other shows it's just kind of just global lighting that's thrown on.
Just like a bright light over the whole thing.
Yeah, just like a sitcom set.
Just like a sitcom. That's right.
Totally. It's just the desire to get it done quickly, and they'll be like, oh, let's make the light kind of red, it'll be cool here. But we are actually doing it shot by shot lighting, which is very time consuming, very costly. But we're able to quickly set up a new lighting. We're like, wow, it'd be great to get this rim light on Optimus for his close-up, but we don't need it for the wide shot. And something that's been different on television animation. I think that's what gives us that cinematic quality.
It's like lighting a movie,
Yeah, it really is. And the atmosphere, and fog and mist.
And we should mention that Christoph, our lighting designer, won an Emmy this year for his work.
Jeff, I have a question. Who is that nefarious-looking robot in that teaser clip we just saw?
You should definitely blog your thoughts about it.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I would suggest that you immediately start guessing and see if
There's
you
a
get
lot of clues in there.
There are.
Just got to put them together.
Is it the Fallen?
You know I'm not going to tell you.
Is it Unicron?
Keep going. Why am I'm not going to tell
No,
you?
I've
Keep
tried
bringing
this
it up
trick
to
with
the
him.
Unicron.
You're looking for all of the sweat, where his eyes are looking, it ain't going to work.
We have a great,
I've tried that.
we have a great crossover with the Hamburger.
I was about to say, do you have a crossover with Zorro?
Zorro. Wow. Zorro.
Or did you,
Zorro and a
or did you
robot
see Ernie's character drive like a hearse, like Ecto 1 or something?
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
At BotCon, you mentioned showing things that were referenced before, specifically Unicron, because the Dark Energon is from his blood. Does that mean maybe season 2 we might see Unicron some way, somehow?
I would say, again, that like the Native Americans, we use all parts of the buffalo. So if we have built it or brought it up, chances are it's going to come back in some way. It may not come back the exact way you expect, but we typically don't put anything in that we don't intend to pay off in some way, because we really don't, as fans, we don't want to disappoint.
I'm telling you, they really are planning ahead. It's not just really not making it up as we go along. It really is like really building on stuff that we're setting up, which is amazing.
And on that note, I love buffalo meat, and you can get it at Trader Joe's. And that's a good way to keep the buffalo around, because if you need to keep eating it, you need to keep breeding the buffalo so you can keep eating
And
it.
our show is, in fact, just food for the masses. So there you go.
Our show is free range.
So if you have Dark Energon, is there like a vaccine or anything? Like light Energon, dark side, light side.
That's interesting. Yes, there is. We thought of that already.
Okay.
So it's not your idea.
I would suggest that there may actually be more than just those two kinds of energon. Yes.
Oh,
Perhaps
so it's
there's
like
lots
blue kryptonite and
There's diesel fuel, and there's 89 and 87 and 91.
Ethanol.
all. Flex fuel.
Knockout has become sort of a very, breakout hit character. What was the impetus in thinking behind Knockout and how he sort of became, this sort of very cultured Decepticon who's very smart and neat, and he's an auto enthusiast, right?
Yep. I think, again, when we know we want to introduce a new character, we should kind of start from a place of what personality type are we maybe not representing in the show thus far. You don't want to put 2 or 3 of the same personalities in a small ensemble, because there's nowhere to go with them. They're the same characters, and they're so limited in how many characters we can use that we try really hard to, if we're going to bring somebody new in, have a very different point of view for them, a very different attitude for them. And one of the things that especially Dwayne had kind of been thinking was, all right, they're all cars, they're all vehicles by necessity, but what if at least one of them really enjoyed that and actually went out and took advantage of it in ways that the other bots never would think to. So that's really what it grew out of.
We'd love to base a character on Michael Bay. So we'd like to open up the conversation of what kind of car should he be. Good. Just blog it. You don't have to answer now. But Michael, what kind of car would you like to be if we're going to put you in Transformers format? Leave it to you, buddy. Love you.
So, Bob, just if you could clarify, what is it you didn't really like about the Dinobots and not having the Dinobots in the Transformers movie? So fans around the world will know and will be able to read why you don't like the Dinobots and why you hate the Dinobots.
It's not that I don't like them, but for the particular continuity that we were going, I couldn't imagine why a robot would want to hide as a dinosaur in 2011.
Right.
Because there are no dinosaurs. And the only reason to look like a dinosaur is to hide from other dinosaurs, I thought. Because hiding as a dinosaur is not going to help anybody in terms of, like, in Chicago, if you're a dinosaur, you don't go, oh, it's a dinosaur, great. I'm glad it's not a killer robot. It's still a freaking dinosaur. So that's what we thought. However, if suddenly in the next incarnation of movies, or maybe in the 3rd season, there's some crazy, I don't know, time travel? I don't know what happened.
Crack in the earth.
Crack in the earth. Find a dinosaur island,
Golden disc.
then maybe it makes sense to hide. But until then,
It's a pretty big concept to get into the first movie.
or a second.
Maybe they're hiding in a museum.
But then they can't leave. But then they
There
go
you
leave
go.
at night, right? They still have.
But you have a giant spider.
But spiders still exist. There's no dinosaurs. But good point.
But she's a helicopter. She's a helicopter now.
Yeah, she hides as a vehicle.
she hides.
Yeah.
She has a helicopter form now. That's her alt line.
Going back a little bit to the production, I know usually at the end of the movies we get a lot of information on what ILM did, how things are rendered and all the technology around that. How do you guys do it? You don't have an ILM, so is all of your production and rendering and stuff done in-house?
We do have an ILM, and our ILM is Polygon Studios in Tokyo. They're our partner studio, and I think Jeff mentioned on the panel,
They're amazing.
when we came into this project, I had worked with them briefly. Jeff and Dave had also worked with them on a previous series, and we just knew that they would be the right studio to kind of challenge themselves and kind of partner up with us and be equals with us along the way. So we send all of our kind of our blueprint work, our design work, our early CG models, we send everything to them, and we work hand in hand with them back and forth. And they're the crew, they're the part of our crew that builds all the assets, that does the animation, and then they do all the rendering there.
And despite really the turmoil in Japan, they haven't missed a beat. They are our heroes, and they're amazing.
They were there, 24/7 during that time, and just really worked to make sure that they would stay on track for us. But the biggest thing is with all the designs and everything, like Jose was saying on the panel, everybody kind of brings their own level. Everybody raises the bar, and then the next person is inspired by that, and they kind of go to the next round. It keeps ramping up and up. So Polygon, when Jose was doing early designs and sent them over, we had no idea really what we were going to get back. We knew what we wanted, but we're even surprised every time that we see them come back. And over the course of the season, the animations just improved and improved and improved. And by the end of the season, you're going to see that the quality of what they're doing is feature quality. They really challenge themselves. They're so excited about the stories, and so there are names at the end of our credits. They're all under Polygon, and they are our ILM.
Therese, being the lady in this group, how do you like getting to work on a show with such strong female personalities, such strong female characters, even, the villains like Arachnid and Orci, who's, I think, a great character, and even June, I think, is also, a great, just strong three-dimensional character. Does that make it, better for you to have, characters that aren't at all stereotypical, strong females?
I've worked on action-adventure shows with these guys before, and I think one thing about all the quality of the work that we do, but bringing into Transformers, RC, and even though Miko might not seem like a strong female, she really is. And along with June and Arachnid, I think these guys are just equal opportunists. They don't write towards a female or a male character, so it just elevates the qualities that we all bring to the table. And we actually have quite a few female crew members on our show. So
this whole crew is absolutely bisexual.
One more thing I want to mention about Polygon. So we had, a number of us had worked with them before, and we suspected that they were the guys, but it's Hasbro, it's the first show for them. They actually wanted to go out and kind of explore some other studios as well, just due diligence. And I will tell you that when we presented those other studios with, here's our schedule, here's our budget, here's what we're looking for quality-wise, most of them ran screaming, quite honestly. Polygon were the ones who stayed and forgot to step backwards, or whatever you're supposed to do, and said, it's going to be hard, but we think we can do it, and we think we understand what you want. And they really did. I mean,
I think our most asked question was, do they need to transform?
Yes.
That was what most studios came back with.
Yes. Because they were okay with them as bots and vehicles, but not if they had to actually create the transformation.
Really?
And again, we're talking about a 5-part miniseries we were building to, so we need to have all 5 of those parts delivered 5 weeks in a row. That is the equivalent of a long feature that we did in about a year. So that's pretty... and the one other thing I'll say about Polygon is, if I remember correctly, when we learned about the earthquake, I don't even think we had time to send them the email saying, oh my gosh, are you okay? What's going on? And there was an email waiting for us saying, we may miss a deadline.
We're sorry.
We're sorry.
Wow.
Literally.
They're heroes. They're really amazing.
So what's the lead time work like? Are you guys months or weeks ahead of them? Are you designing down to the last minute and things are being rendered up to like right before it goes out to the...
Well, traditionally you do kind of work split. You work, everybody in the U.S. does all their work, you put it in a box, you send it to whatever studio you're working with. But for this project, I think the storylines are so complex and the designs need to be thought through. We actually send them all of our material as soon as we get it. So every outline We let them weigh in on the outlines. They work with us to kind of tell us what they can and can't accomplish in the animation, or they'll suggest to us what would be really cool. So all along the way, we're constantly sending things daily. So there's about 6 people on our crew that correspond every day, just with information back and forth. So there is a dividing point where we kind of send a whole bunch of work over to them, but we're in constant communication with them. So.
I mean, I'm talking to them on a daily basis, at
every-
least through emails back and forth as we're going through footage.
Every episode, there's about 6 months of work on our side and about 6 months of work on their side. So it's quite a long amount of time just to get one of the episodes out the door.
That's per episode?
But still less time than most studios
Yeah.
enjoy on their CG shows.
We know about Jack and the relationship with his mother, but what about Raph and also Miko? Could we ever see any of their home life and their like Miko's interaction with her foster parents and Raph with his parents?
Quite honestly, we would love to. We want to expand our world as much as we can. The tough thing again is, would you rather have Miko's foster parents, or do you have another Autobot, another Decepticon? And that's literally some of the decisions that we have to make. So right now, I think we actually showed you her foster parents just as still images on a cell phone or something like that. Raph, we say it's a big family, we reference, but honestly, if using an off-screen voice for Mom is going to let us build a new Decepticon in Season 2, probably a better place to put our efforts, just because how much time do you want to spend at Raph's house or in the living room? Although I will tell you that you will spend a little time at Raph's house coming up due to a story, for story reasons.
We're definitely still delving into stories, getting little tidbits of their.
The longer we go, the more assets we have.
Exactly.
But you're not rendering the humans to transform or anything.
There's something coming up, maybe
What?
somewhere.
Pretenders?
Headmasters?
There will be some combo platinum.
We're not going to have like something like we had with Sorry and Animated, where one of the humans isn't a human.
I would say please keep watching.
Miko came off, in the last episode, like a much more interesting character where she showed, like, for the first time a lot of vulnerability. And it just seems like her attraction with sort of her Autobot brothers, especially Bulkhead, is seeming to sort of hide, I don't know, maybe a layer of pain. Is there some sort of feeling of regret or loneliness with Miko, and that she's sort of is she an exchange student? I mean, is she lonely in the U.S.?
I think it's a great question. I think, again, we tend to leave little clues. Also, just good storytelling requires that you dig into characters and find things about them that are more interesting than they are just this one-dimensional thing.
We're going to start doing
Should be interesting. Look, if you were sent to this country, I'm not sure willingly, and you're living with people who you obviously don't really feel the need to go check in with periodically, because you spend a lot of time with the Autobots, and you're choosing to spend a lot of your time with the surrogate family, where maybe for the first time you do feel like people care about you, doesn't that make you a more interesting character? And isn't that more stuff for us to play?
Oh, definitely.
Her birth parent or her birth father is a mad scientist that builds giant robots.
We had that idea.
Now, when you guys are working on like that part of the story and incorporating the family or looking at these kids, how much of that do you also look at the audience? Like, I mean, I'm grown up and I'm watching this, but if I was a parent or a kid, I'd be like, hey, I don't want to hang out with my family. I don't want to hang out with robots. So is there ever a time where it's like, maybe this isn't the right kind of message to send? Or
I think for us, obviously, episode to episode, we pay attention to balance, but we always are kind of looking longer term. So I feel like if we spend a little bit of a couple of episodes dealing with family stuff just to humanize these characters, the overall whole is still heavily bot-centric.
And there's always repercussions to their actions that we're building to.
And that can, where we started was, you wanted to reflect people's lives, and so people have parents. So we don't go to parents because we have to have parents, because it's an actual part of your life, be it an obstacle or be it a benefit. So we wanted to feel real, and that's why we use certain elements or certain characters, not because we feel like I really want Mom and Dad to be able to sit down and watch this together, even though that's a nice benefit. But we all have, hopefully, parents. You do too, I hope. You know, so you want to use the stuff that's real and not just exclude it or include it just because you're trying to reach some demographic. You want to be kind of telling your own stories. You know?
Again, you know, when we started, I remember very early on in the process, for example, Raph, his personality is, we always said he came from a large family. He was probably a little ignored at home, didn't get a lot of attention, was the last kid to speak up. When we first met him in the series, he actually tended to be very shy and didn't talk a lot. If you've watched over time and as the series continues, he's actually come out of his shell a little bit thanks to his partner, and he's become the voice of the one who can't speak. And as a result, found his own voice as well. And that obviously was something we wanted to do from the beginning.
You want a weird behind-the-scenes thing?
Yeah.
We named him and sort of designed him after Raffi.
It's true. He's right
sitting right behind
Take a picture. Just take another couple questions, guys, before we swap.
There's a resemblance.
right?
I couldn't believe it when I found out that Adam Baldwin was playing Breakdown. How did he get involved?
We've used him before.
The Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan. There's a lot of people we've used before who've come back around, Clancy Brown, et cetera, et cetera. So Kevin Michael Richardson.
People like to work with his team.
And we like to work with, again, you know, you want to try to create a surrogate family. You're going to spend a lot of time with these people, so you want to try to pick people you actually look forward to hanging out with.
Now, on the opposite end of that question,
Who do we not like?
do you guys look... Well, no, I'm sorry, getting back to the family stuff.
Who have you passed on?
How do you guys kind of design a good fantasy part for kids? I mean, all of us are interested in the Transformers, and we project a heck of a lot. You could show, like, one guy in the background for 1 second, and all of the adult fan sites would light up trying to guess who that is. But the kids have to have their element, too, who aren't as familiar with these things. How do you guys...
But that balancing act was the hardest thing to pull off, I think, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it. As far as we have to be aware of the fact that there's 25 years worth of fans and of certain truths of mythology. Conversely, we have to bring brand new people into this world because if we only service the fans, it's actually not enough for a new broadcast network. Not to mention that I think the goal for all of us in some way is to be able to sit down with our own kids and introduce them to this thing that we loved. So that was definitely the hardest balancing act is telling stories that will not bore adults, but keeping the core emotional part of that story simple enough that even younger viewers can come to it. And that's why I think Dwayne Capizzi and that group have done amazing. Marsha Griffin, Steve Melching, it really is finding a way in and a clean enough, I got to get from A to B to C for younger viewers, but then layering it with some of the emotional stuff of why does Raph act the way he does, or what is going on in Orci's life, what happened to her in the past.
And we never don't balance stuff.
Ever.
It's like with my daughter, who's 8 years old, when we watch the show, yeah, there's some parts I might have to explain with her, but it opens up a dialogue with me and my kid, and we're enjoying it because there's things she likes, there's things I like.
And they understand so much. Right? Like I think partially because they've been raised now on media to such a degree, it's so ever-present. Their knowledge of film language, their knowledge of visual storytelling is 10 times what it was when we were kids. And it's both amazing and horrifying.
And is that a little bit why Raph is kind of this super techno geek for at his age?
As a starting point, in both the movies and the show, one of the reasons we go through the point of view of young people is not because we're trying to appeal to them. It's because story-wise, it occurs to us that the people who might be the most open to a giant sentient robot actually being an alien would be children. They are most open to the idea of potentially alien life, of potentially artificial intelligence. And so that is something that occurred to us to be why Autobots might choose children as people they would reveal themselves to first. And that's the case in the first movie and again in the show, where they're going to be less fearful and more open to accepting them as people and therefore helping them. And that's not just because we're trying to appeal to children. That happens to be what we think might be an actual story element if it were real. And so that naturally, again, we don't include parents just because we want to appeal to parents. We include parents because it's part of the story. We don't include children because we just want to include children. We include children because we think it's an organic way for Transformers to interact with humanity. And when you can do that, it's part of the story, and then it happens to appeal to kids or to parents, then you're winning, you know. Winning? You're winning.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. Did you want to ask one more?
Yeah, just one more. Down the road, can we actually get Bumblebee an actual voice? I mean,
oh man, age-old debate.
Sort of tired of that.
What do you guys think?
R2-D2 type thing.
Again, depending on how long we get to do this, we do have designs on both showing you why he doesn't speak and perhaps actually.
But couldn't he adopt like a voice from the internet, like Hartman?
I mean, even in the flashbacks where he's in Cybertron and he's fighting alongside the Autobots, and
He did speak once with Megatron.
I hate the Autobots.
When Megatron was in his brain, he did speak.
I hate those Decepticons so very much.
did you see those blow up
No.
South Park balloons?
I haven't walked the floor. I came right to here.
No, they're outside.
Jumper, Kenny.
Yeah. Yes. You killed Cliff Jumper. That's great.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.